All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm from JP Morgan in Glasgow, from Scotland. And today, in the next few minutes, I would like to share with you 5 steps towards your testing dream in React. All right, so step number 1, use static code analysis tools. So these tools will allow you to get feedback as quick as possible and catch significant number of syntax errors and bugs in your code. Besides that, they will also allow you to have consistent code style by automatically formatting your code for you. And last but by no means least, they will allow you to eliminate noisy and unnecessary tests in your code. And that's because they have already eliminated a large number of bugs which you might have produced. So use a linter, such as ESLint, use static typing as TypeScript or Reason React or Flow to discover the problems as early as you can and to eliminate errors in your code. Use Code Formatter, Prettier, to automatically style your code for you. So even though at this point you have not actually written any code, any tests yet, you have already provided a very solid foundation for your testing strategy. This already will eliminate massive number of bugs which you might have had to deal with in the future. So step 2, gain more value out of Jest snapshot testing. So snapshot testing is very unique and useful testing mechanism provided by Jest. But from my team's experience, it actually took us a while to understand how to gain more value out of having those tests. So there are a few problems with snapshot tests. Quite often, you will end up with a lot of them. They will be really big. They will often fail for no reason, not for no reason, but for something which is not that important. And developers really quickly learn to just update those snapshot tests. They are really, really hard to PR, even though that's the whole point that they has to be in your source code. But it's very challenging to review really massive snapshot tests. And compared to normal unit tests, in snapshot tests, it's very hard to see the intention behind the existence of those tests. So you will often see tests, saying it should render correctly, or it should look correct or something. But obviously, it does not highlight what you are actually trying to test. And the last point is very important, actually. It will give you false confidence in your test coverage, because test coverage will grow with your snapshot tests, but you might be actually covering all your bugs with snapshots, and it will still be showing that you have really, really good test coverage. So instead, try to limit your snapshot tests to small static components, which do not have state or do not have hard, complex logic with user interaction. Try to use them for those really, really small, simple components. Use inline and div snapshots to reinforce the importance of, the size limit of those tests. They has to be small to be useful. And consider using them beyond React. Snapshot tests are useful in a lot of other scenarios rather than just React components. For example, you can take a snapshot of response from API of JSON data. Quite often we find it really, really useful to use snapshots for those scenarios. And you can use Jest ESLint plugin to reinforce those rules in your project. Step number 3, build up confidence in your tests. So if you have tests that are really hard to write, that do fail when you made some non-break-in refactoring, or you have renamed your component, or you have changed something internally which has no effect on user experience at all, your test should not fail. But worse, if your tests are passing when user experience is actually broken, and generally they allow bugs and regressions to creep in, then you probably would not be confident shipping every change you make to production without doing manual testing. So instead, try to write tests that resemble the way how end users actually use your application. And it's not just integration tests or end-to-end tests. All tests, like unit tests as well, can do that. And importantly, write tests that are agnostic to implementation details. So this will allow you to do refactoring. This will allow you to be confident that application is working, but you don't need to change your tests all the time when you change some implementation details. So for our team, it was using React testing library, which helped to completely switch our focus towards end users and to write unit tests and integration tests, which gave us significantly more confidence in our tests. Step number 4, create reliable end-to-end tests. End-to-end tests are at the very top of your testing trophy or testing pyramid, and they should give you the most confidence that everything is working as it should for end users, like the most critical paths are working correctly. Unfortunately, they are usually really flaky, really hard to write and maintain, and quite often they are very, very challenging to debug a failure with. So usually end-to-end tests are associated with Selenium, and these are the pitfalls which like our team has experienced with Selenium tests. So instead, consider using tools that are running in the same run loop as your application. So tools like Cypress are fundamentally different to Selenium. They are not working via the network, like Selenium works via HTTP with the WebDriver, whereas Cypress runs in the run loop of your application. So this is like completely different architecture, and that allows you to open up so much more because you have full control over your application. You eliminate all the flakiness. You don't need to explicitly like wait for anything to happen. The testing tool knows what's happening with your application. It's basically running beside it. And obviously, the last point is probably the most important for developers. You will be able to debug efficiently. You will be able to understand what the failure is, rather than seeing obscure error message saying that element is not found on the page, whereas clearly it was there a second later or something. And the last step, focus on what works for your project and for your team. So try to align your testing strategy with the type of the project you work on and with the knowledge and needs of your development and product team as well. So each team is different. Each project has different needs. Try not to do the same thing for every type of project you work on and every team you work with. So it's obviously a really short time to talk about testing. You can check my talk on one of the meetups in London, which is like 1 hour long, about all the points I have touched on in more details. And you can see all the examples and demos and everything in that talk if you are interested. And yeah, learn more. There is a lot more links. I will post that on Twitter later, and you can start with reading about that, and it will lead you to all the other resources I have been talking about. And yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please come and talk to me afterwards. Thank you.